Hello, internet, and various things. Um, so I wanted to make another video, kind of like a continuation, um, vlog, if you will. God, I'm old. Bringing back all these old terms and things. It's just, oh my God. Um, but I kind of miss doing this open dialogue, open conversation type of video, type of whatever you want to call this dynamic, this what they call retro now, YouTube format. Because again, I'm putting myself out to be vulnerable again. And I have a podcast that I run, that I do by myself, that I kind of put my own thoughts behind. And I also do a lot of other things. I do a lot of different varying things through the through my business, or at least the multimedia arm of my business. And so now I'm just kind of in this, getting to a point where I'm reacquainting myself with the platform. Now, grant you, what you're seeing here, what you're seeing as far as like content, if you're not familiar with the way that I used to run things and I used to do things, it was kind of a slapdash or whatever, because I was trying to create something and trying to create content that was unique, and it wasn't something that you would find in the movie theaters, and it wouldn't be something that, wasn't, low budget. But at the same time, I don't really have a lot of money, so it's kind of like, I'll just make do with what I got. So, so these videos, to kind of give you an idea of the old channel, it was mostly gaming focused. It was video game focused. It was very much my opinions about gaming and how I saw the video game landscape changing in a very different way, in a very unique way, in a very different approach to gaming, which I've kind of taken that particular concept and have moved it to video or to audio only. There is no current vision at this point in time for a video version. I don't feel like there's really a need for it right now, for as small as the podcast is. Internal plug for side chat. So if you want to listen, it's on all major platforms. So if you want to go have fun, do whatever, So yeah. Some other kind of things is, I'm going to be reviving the name. Obviously can't revive the channel itself because the channel itself is gone. But I have decided, and I've been doing a lot of internalizing and deliberating on this particular concept, and that is to bring back and revive what used to be considered the M Squared network. Now, branding has been updated yet again. Things are going to be changed. Things are going to be a lot more formal on that, as opposed to how it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, it was kind of like I would record a video or record a lot of videos, and then I would upload a bunch of those, and whatever ones got the most like viewership for whatever day, that would be the game I would play to try and ride the whatever. Again, a lot of YouTube stuff that was really stupid back in the day, and it still is, but again, it's YouTube, so it's whatever. I believe in the old way of YouTube. Broadcast yourself was their original slogan, so basically what I want to do is I want to broaden the horizon. Okay, so basically what I mean by that is I want to actually develop an actual network. So right now on the channel, you can see, right now there is one video, and it was my interview with a local podcast duo, and they were really cool. They were really chill. They were awesome about it. Basically, the premise is it's a spotlight series called In Frame, and I think with that on the channel, that could be its own programming block, and then game reviews, which again I still am trying to figure out, names for all these different breakdowns and time slots and blocks and stuff like that and whatnot, and programming schedules and stuff like that. And there's a lot of back end on a lot of this stuff, so bear with me. It's all coming. Eventually it will all come. Because originally, like I said, M Squared Network was originally, you had Minecraft Mondays, you had a review day, you had live stream on one day, you had, you had all these different things, and it didn't really flow because it was just like, oh, you're doing this. Oh, no, you're playing this. Oh, no. So there's no real consistency, and there was no real consistent thread. So with M Squared and the M Squared network, it was originally a play off of my initials, and it was originally a play off of my initials pre-transition, which I think that'll be a video in and of itself, but it's a whole topic. But originally, it was a play on my initials, and I literally wrote it out that way. I didn't write it like M dash squared. I wrote, a very swooshy M and a 2, and that was, how obviously I couldn't do that on like documentation of whatever, but like legal documents, I couldn't do that. But basically I used to do that a lot with like I would practice on a whiteboard. It was insane. It was bonkers. But I basically, it was something that stuck with me, and so I created the M Squared persona as this chaotic gamer that was doing a bunch of other things and experimenting with a bunch of different things. But I think that mindset will come back eventually, and I think that it will. I hope it will. But I think what really will happen and once it takes off, and in its own unique way, because not every video is going to take off, and I get that, and I understand that, but we will do things like that. So M-Frame will have its own slot, which it won't be a consistently like every day or every week video. It'll be like a once a month type of thing, because it takes a lot of prep. It does. It takes a lot of prep, which I found out. I have a couple of people that are in my circles that I've asked and reached out to that do a lot of things locally, and that's the whole premise of it, is to showcase local content, local creators, local people who are essentially creators, equal peers, if you will. And so that's where M-Frame comes in. So with M-Frame, we're also going to do, which I really haven't thought about this, but there is something that I want to start up, and that is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the original concept for my barcade that I wanted to try and push for and do, and maybe pivot it for now and use the name for maybe like a gaming hour type of podcast, or maybe like a game showcase, or like something gaming related. So that'll be a thing. And then we'll probably do like a tech segment at some point. So like, not necessarily reviewing like high-end hardware or whatever, but like reviewing certain things and being like, hey, this is coming out, or hey, this is going to be, whatever. But like actually having specific, like, In-Frame is going to be a once a month thing, obviously, but like, Gamers Lounge podcast is going to be, a weekly or a bi-weekly type of setup. And then, something else will fill in the space for, the other segments. But anyway, at any rate, M Squared Network is coming back, and it's coming back in a big way, in a very unique way. And I think that is exciting. It's very exciting for me. It's exciting for me to be able to talk to all of these cool people that I've like not really realized that they are cool. Like I'm able to sit down with these people and converse and be able to ask them questions, about their thing, their craft or their writing or why they do what they do. And it's great. It's amazing way to experience experience and embellish a conversation with certain people. And the other thing too is, I was also thinking about doing one for myself, doing like a particular episode for myself, but then that would be a lot of splicing and a lot of editing. And right now I'm only working on my laptop and my phone, so it's very difficult to edit on my laptop. It took probably a day and a half just to get the right editing software right and to transcode right, and it was a pain because the editing software didn't want to the scrubbing of the timeline. It didn't want to allow for scrubbing of the timeline. And so I had to downscale it, edit it, re-upscale it, and then upload it. And it was just a whole process. It was a mess. And yeah, so there's that. But I think that eventually what will happen, and I think that eventually it's going to become a slow process, is I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on here, which I know it sounds like I'm going to have a full-time, um, full-time job, but it is going to be something that I think I need to start doing again. Just kind of doing vlogs, like a weekly update or kind of a small like pulse, you know, of like where I'm at mentally, where I'm at socially, where I'm at, you know, how am I, type of situation. I just uploaded a video, literally today. Again, this is video 2. This is going to be like a 3-part splicing, so it is going to be a video about certain things. It's going to be just basically ramblings, but it is going to be something that I think I need to do a lot more, and I might also start journaling too. I'm starting to think about that too. And also just getting back into creativity and being able to tap into some of my creativeness that I've genuinely been needing lately, and I haven't noticed that I've been missing it lately up until last few months now. And I think that honestly it's a lot better than not doing it at all. But I think we'll also on the main channel over on the M Squared Network channel, we'll also do like a shorts. So like on a weekend we'll upload like a highlight reel or something like that or whatever. But there's going to be a lot of videos being thrown out, and it's all going to be just about different things and different topics. And if you don't like one topic, stick around because we're probably going to catch it at some point. Again, it's something that I've wanted to do since since I started doing video content, video format. I so the original concept and the original story behind the M Squared Network was I had been watching a lot of TV at the time, and I was getting to the point where I wanted to start creating my own content and my own videos and create my own kind of like family home videos or funny home videos where, you know, people would send in their tapes and they would be like, oh, this is funny, or oh, this isn't funny, but this could work with this. And if we splice it together and this and that and all this stuff. And then I started watching the news too, which really got me in trouble. So between funny home videos and the news, especially cable news, that was another problem. I ended up having this epiphany and this idea one day. I was like, well, why don't I just like create my own version of those two worlds and those two parallels and just kind of fuse them together? And I think that's where the virtualized 24-hour, you know, content cycle came from for me. And I don't think anybody's ever decided to do that before, to be honest. We might have to try that. But it is a very interesting concept that I want to try and approach with the right technology and the right headspace now. And again, this stuff was all thought of back when I had my digital camera, actually. And I don't have any of that footage, so I can't really be like, oh, watch this video, watch that video. I can't do that. Um, I can't even show it because it's not even like I don't even have it anywhere. Thank God, because that was really bad. It was really bad video. It was probably like 480i. It was not good. It was not good quality. Um, this was like the early 2000s, and like my God, it was so bad. It was laughably bad. Like I'm gonna admit it, it wasn't good. Uh, it was just talking about stupid politics and stuff, and it was just so bad. It was so bad. I would put on like a overcoat and just trumpet around, and it was so bad. It was bad. Um, but again, this was like 2009 or so, 2008, I think is when I got my first digital camera. Now it wasn't a flip camera. If you remember what a flip camera is, you are an awesome person. Only because my high school had those, or no, my middle school had those. We ended up, our class ended up getting a bunch of flip video cameras to do. Um, we were supposed to film like some sort of like thing. I don't remember what it was. It was for like health class, I think it was. And our group, ironically, did alcohol abuse, or at least the concept was supposed to be alcohol abuse. And so, like, it was so bad, though. It was so bad. It was laughably bad. And, like, it was filmed really poorly. It was just. But anyway, at any rate, um, that was when the concept for the M squared network had come to pass or whatever. And so, I don't know. It was just something that I had figured out that I honestly wanted to do. And I had honestly felt, compassion, or not compassion, but I felt passionate enough to actually do it. And it just didn't click at that time. So I started getting into watching YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, okay. So people just record themselves and then they just put it on YouTube. Because I wasn't, like, obviously I was aware of what YouTube was, but at that point I didn't put two and two together. So, but it's insane to think that after all those years that, like, we would be here talking about the same format, or at least the same concept format. Because that was the thing. It was a very big thing at the time of having 24-hour of anything, 24-hour news, 24-hour gaming, 24-hour everything. You wanted to beat, the likes of Ted Turner and Richard Murdoch. And so, with the news cycles, so, 24-hour cartoon blocks, 24-hour news slots. So basically, they wanted to cableify everything. So I took that concept and ran with it. And I thought I could use YouTube as a source or an outlet for independent, theoretical way of doing things. So yeah. So Side Chat is a podcast that I do. Again, self promotion, self plugging. I don't care. Go watch it. Go listen to it on every platform. If you got Apple Music, you can listen to it on there. You've got Netflix, not a Netflix, God. It's been a long day. If you've got Spotify, you can listen to it on there. If you got Amazon Music, you can listen to it on there. If you got YouTube Music, shout out to YouTube Music. They're pretty good. I pay for it, so it's not, anything. It's just, whatever. But no, so, okay. So I want to pivot, change gears. So the other thing I wanted to be on here and talk to about is the fact that things are changing. Things are changing fast. Well, not things, but stuff is changing rather fast for me, and I am in very much a limbo state. Now, if you don't know what a limbo or what limbo is, it is this in-between phase of life where you have ended a particular phase of your life and you're getting ready to cross the bridge into another phase or another segment, haha, pun intended, into the other part of your life. Okay. And it is very much a very different feeling this time around. Whereas going from high school to college was a big shift. It was a very big shift. Going from high school to college was something that I thought I would be prepared for, or at least would be better prepared for. Was not. So basically what ended up happening with that was college was kind of eating up a lot of my time. And so things started happening. Life sort of kind of kicked my butt. Basically, I did date through college. Was not proud of it. I also was kind of in this weird headspace where I knew I didn't want to be in college anymore. I was in this headspace where I didn't want to be in college anymore, so I went and I started applying for jobs. And so I applied for jobs, and it wasn't until 2016 when I figured out that was what I applied for a job at one of the local grocery stores because I didn't think anything of it, especially at that time. And like the year prior, the year prior was basically when my great-grandmother had passed away. Now, with me, I've been through various deaths and stuff like that and whatnot. And, you don't really think about it a whole lot. But as you get older, because the first time I had first time I had an instance with death was my great-grandmother on my grandmother's side. Well, not her great-grandmother, it was her mother, who had passed away. So my great-grandmother had passed away when I was about 3, between 3 and 4. A lot of things happened when I was 3 and 4. So, it all kind of, blends together a little bit. But the thing of it is it was a very weird, very ominous, like, situation. But my great grandmother, so my grandfather's mom, had passed away in about 2014, 2015, which coincidentally, since we lived in different states, we didn't really get to go and enjoy time. So when I moved back with my mom and my stepdad, which that I cover in the previous video, that was the whole thing. I basically asked my mom, I was like, hey, can I get my great grandmother's, mailing address and this and that and the other? And she kind of like got like, what? And so, because I'd always seen my mom write a lot, write letters and stuff. And so basically what ended up happening was I ended up basically having a pen pal with my great grandmother, which was amazing. It was awesome. Because I would tell her how my month or my week or whatever had been going. I would tell her about different things that was going on, movies I've seen, whatever. And like she would tell me about her day and how she had been, and because she was living in kind of like this assisted living situation, she would always be like, "Oh, I'm dating this dude. It's pretty cool." And so the funny thing about it is my great grandmother was always, she was very much alternative. You could definitely tell. She was very much alternative. Even though she was, if, like, I really don't know how to describe her very much because, like, she wore pantsuits, but she liked living life, and it was great because, like, something that my grandfather had always told me was she would sit and watch Cops. So the TV show that a lot of people grew up watching in the 80s and 90s and then ended up getting picked up by Fox and kept going and everything. So it was like a reality TV show, if you will, following different cops and their patrols and who they'd catch and who did what and all this stuff. So if you don't know about it, watch an episode or two. It's insane. My stepdad was in it. Or, well, not in it, but he was into it. And so I ended up having to sit and watch it before I went and would go to bed on certain nights. And it was such a bizarre concept. And so finding out later that my great grandmother was like an avid watcher as well, I was like, oh, okay, this is really bizarre. So not only did she watch Cops, but she also watched what they called Monday Night Boxing or something like that, or Friday Night Boxing or something. It had something to do with boxing. And she would sit there and watch boxing, professional boxing. It was bizarre because you wouldn't think about it now, having, somebody from the, 20s and 30s watching TV, specifically stuff like this. Like, it was unheard of because, like, you would think more of like the Leave It to Beaver, the more black and white stuff, the Honeymooners, the the Munsters, something of that particular black and white era, Charlie Chaplin, who I admire a lot for his performances. Charlie Chaplin is one of my favorites as far as like movie actors goes. And then Jim Varney is another one that I liked growing up because is just, again, how much of a disconnect I am from my own generation. It's crazy. I'm a tech enthusiast or a tech hobbyist, but I also enjoy classic media. So it's very, it's very much, um, this ebb and flow, and it's so bizarre. But like, it was cool to know that about her, and that, you know, and then my grandfather telling me another story about her. Um, they went to a night race at a dirt track in Minnesota, and she decided one night to wear all white. she she was an avid pantsuit wearer, so um but um but yeah, so she went in with a white suit. She left with not a white suit. And she basically, it was black at that point, because the dirt and the oil and the everything, like, she wasn't in the race. She was not a participant, a an attendee. There we go. um but yeah, she was an attendee of, this race, and I was like, dude, this is cool. And so, like, yeah, you don't really think much about how your grandparents, let alone your great grandparents, act or had acted. Um, because that was another thing. She was very much an avid artist, an avid painter. Um, she did a lot of charcoal paintings as well as watercolor paintings, and she loved it. She really did. She loved it. And up until she ended up getting carpal tunnel and whatnot, she really couldn't do it a whole lot. But um, she she enjoyed it very much so. So I have the utmost respect for artists in varying capacity, because of what um, what she was able to do. And so basically, that was a whole thing. And when she passed, I think both my grandfather, me, my grandmother, and my mom were all devastated. Like, but I think my grandfather had definitely hit the hardest. And we basically drove one day, um, 13 hours, um, to go to the funeral. And I was in college at the time, and I was like, hey, I told my professor at the time, I was like, hey, I got a funeral to attend to. And he was like, yeah, it's fine. Go be with your family. That, if you, as long as you are able to, you know, get the homework done, we're fine. So that was the first time where I ended up taking an online class. It was what they call a hybrid class, I think it was. Um, where maybe it wasn't. Because again, this was 2015, so um, maybe. Um, but it was a math class. I do remember that it was a math class. Um, which it would have been better if I was at, on campus, but um, so that happens. Um, and then like again, like, I kind of start dropping out of school. slowly because I was like, you know what, I can't, um, you know. And then I finally get a job. I got a job working for a local grocery store in the region, and then my grandfather passes away. And so, like, just trying to recover from, the loss of his mother, and then he passes, it kind of hurt. It was like I lost my pen pal and I lost my best friend at the same time. Um, and to be completely honest, I really haven't um, mentally recovered. I've I've learned a lot from. I learned a lot from him, and it was not easy. Um, my mom obviously didn't take it well either. My grandmother was completely devastated. She didn't, but then again, she started developing dementia really badly after he had gone. And so, because she had, with my grandmother, she was in and out of the hospital a lot because she started having strokes. Um, and so it was kind of this battle of like who was going to outlive who at this point, because honestly, I honestly don't think he would have been the first to go, to be honest. He was healthy, at least to us. Um, it was my grandmother who mostly went to the doctor all the time and got checked up and, um, was actually up on her medication. But it wasn't until her dementia had kicked in after the loss of my grandfather that everything kind of just accelerated. And so, um, basically, what had happened is, in a very, very dark way, I have been burying family members since I was about 4. Um, which is a very dark thing to say and a dark thing to like conjure up, I guess. But like you don't really think about it as much. Um, now, um, now as for me, I've I've had to, um, as far as my journey goes, I've, um, at this point, don't really know where I'm gonna go. Just started talking to this person who, again, I'm not gonna put on blast, but they were a mess. Um, but which I think I might dive into a little bit more in the next video. So, like I said, this is part 2 of a small mini series that I'm gonna do about. It's called Unpacking My Life. um, basically, basically that becomes kind of my new centralized root system. Um, my cousin is talking to me again. We reconnect. My mom is kind of in limbo at this point because she doesn't even know what's going on either or what she wants to do. Um, she had just gone through a divorce and like, it's like everybody went everywhere. It's like the family just kind of splintered. And then, I get married in 2019 because my now ex and we had dated for like, I think 2 years or so. And I was like, okay, because it was one of my things, my list that I made back in 2012, that one of those things was to get married, find a house. I made this list. I had goals in my life that I wanted to attain once I hit 30. And so basically I get my license, and the one thing that my mom told me, and it actually broke me because I honestly have been concerned and confused my whole life. Like, I don't know why I'm here, I don't know why I've been dealt the life that I have. Like, there's this big swath. And so my mom at the BMV that I go to get my driving test done, basically looks me dead in my eyes, you know, gives me a hug first, because things. And she just straight up tells me, she's like, she straight up tells me to my face in the middle of the BMV, break the cycle. And if a lot of people understand anything about generational trauma, my mom basically told me that, and it goes beyond the phrasing, but the whole mood, the tone, the conversation, the everything. She saw what my relatives were doing. They were either, taking advantage of their parents. They were, you know, obviously not able to live a normal life. And so basically, my mom, in all of her infinite wisdom, basically told me one thing, and that was to break the cycle. Basically, she wanted me to break the generational trauma that she had to endure through her life, and that, her parents had to deal with, and their parents and everything. And so basically, she was like, fix this, please. And to be completely honest, I can't. Generational trauma is something that is very difficult to suppress, to handle, to do, to live through. And you can't just wish it away like an incantation. You can't do that. It's something that you have to live through to the end. And you're the only person that can fix your own trauma. And I think that a lot of people misinterpret that a lot with generational trauma. It's like, whatever trauma that was dealt to you, that's your baggage. You know, your family, whether it be, you know, a loved one, a sibling, a parent, anybody. If someone tells you that you have to fix something that was endured on them, that's a problem. And so basically, my mom tells me this, I break down, I cry. And then basically, I end up passing my driving test. I end up getting my license at, I think it was like 28, I think it was. I was late in life for a lot of things, and I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. I don't care. I just didn't want to get even more exploited because of my situation, so I wasn't about that. So basically, more or less, I end up getting married a couple of years later, in 2019, to a person who, come to find out, and I didn't think about this until way later, actually relatively recently, but so I've also started gravitating more towards psychology stuff, psychology and free thought and a bunch of other things too. And one of the things that I kept hearing a lot of was narcissism and a lot of things about that. And I started doing a lot of digging, a lot of thinking, a lot of introspection, and come to find out, my mom was a narcissist, and now my now ex-wife is also a narcissist. So for whatever reason, and again, don't know why this happens, but I end up getting pulled towards, and again, I talked about this with a friend of mine, and we kind of talked about it for a little while, and it makes sense. You don't choose narcissistic people. Narcissistic people go and attack and antagonize vulnerable people in a vulnerable state of mind. And so to then manipulate them in whatever way that they want and whatever way that they need, and all of this very negative, very vile stuff. And it makes sense now. And so basically, I live with this person. We had been living together before, but we live together. We have apartments. We live together. Blah blah blah. This and that and the other. And we buy a house. Right before COVID. Right before COVID. So we get married. We end up getting a house January. Okay, we signed the papers on January of 2020. We move in. I kid you not, we are in that house for 3 months. And we both are A, now stuck together, and B, both are out of a job. So I am put on temporary unemployment, and they end up getting a completely different job in general. Now, let me backpedal a little bit here. So So during, oh, what was it? During Black Friday, okay, I'm listening to a podcast. And again, I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but I listen to this podcast and it talks about this virus, this thing that's going rampant in Wuhan. And they're freaking out and they're doing things and they're doing this testing and all this stuff and everything. And I'm like, okay, I am, I work, get through work or whatever. I'm working overnights at a clothing store. And, you know, we fulfill the orders for shipping and everything and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, something happens. I end up getting hit with the only thing I can know definitively, because we didn't have tests at this point. I ended up getting hit with the relatively fresh and new COVID. So I ended up getting hit with COVID. I was laid out for like 2 weeks. I'm surprised that I was still able to have a job. Um, you know, I'm fortunate enough that I was able to come back to the job I had. But I could not sleep. I would always wake up with like heavy coughing. And the first thing that my ex does is she rolls over and smacks me on the back. Okay, to try and see if anything in it. The thing is it's a dry cough. There's nothing that's going to be coming up. There's no fluids, there's no mucus, no nothing. It's just a dry cough. She's wailing on my back, thinking that it's something that is mucus related, which is not. And so the entirety of the back part of my ribs hurt for a good chunk of a while. I end up finally being able to go back to work. You know, and like I don't get the upset stomach part, but I do get the upper respiratory part of the newly found COVID strain that had been, you know, just found in Wuhan. And so it's something that I think that would inevitably become this issue. And so we end up getting cooped up in the house. We get cabin fever, blah, 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 this and that and the other. So basically, we end up doing some stuff. We have to wear a mask. We have to prep up, whatever. And so time passes. And so basically, I end up finding another job. And then we kind of plateau. You know, we end up getting, we end up plateauing. We end up becoming, not necessarily rivals, but like just, we don't click anymore. We don't have anything compatibility wise. We don't have anything that, you know, people would consider as being relationship worthy. I was always feeling like I was being treated like how my stepdad treated me when I was younger. Like, you know, I felt like I was miserable all the time. My coworkers even noticed that I was miserable all the time. And so, So in 2022, basically the winter of 2021 into 2022, I end up finally coming out to my cousin and my ex as transgender. And so I basically go down this whole rabbit hole. Well, maybe it's the fact that we weren't compatible because of who I am or because of where I'm at in my life. And so I end up feeling really miserable, really badly, really quickly. And so the thing is, like, everything leading up to this point has really been more about how I've slowly tried to pull myself out of dark times, trying to pull myself out of miserable times, pull me out of certain things that should have helped and should have been an improvement on my life. But the problem is it never did, never happened, period. And so, um, but, um, the the way that things are and the way that things had been, it had felt very much good. You know, life was good, things were great. But the thing is I knew there was something looming. I knew something was going to happen, and it was going to happen wrongfully. And things ended up taking a turn for the worst in 2024. 2024, basically my whole life ends up getting turned upside down again. Not as bad as what happened when I was 6, but still, nonetheless, like, it was a big factor and a big problem that had happened that I ended up going through a divorce. It was a very clean divorce. It was not something that, I had wanted to or had anticipated, but I wanted to make sure that, I wanted to have good, solid, you know, you know, I wanted to make sure that I was good on my end because I did not know what I was going to do. And so what ended up happening was I spiraled. I basically spiraled for a very long time and a very hard time. And so in 2025, I ended up leaving, going out to LA, thinking that, escaping my problems, leaving behind a life that I basically burnt to the ground and had no intentions on coming back for. And so I basically tried to make it, and it helped for a little while. And I think that video is going to explain a lot of where my mind is mentally right now and how psychology has helped me kind of analyze my own life in a way. And I think that that's better and more, it doesn't put me in those tendencies very often. And so I think that now, looking at everything, I'm able to analyze things in a very different way. And I have a network of people that I trust now more than anything else, and not feel like I'm gonna get abandoned, that I'm not gonna feel like life is just gonna get pulled out from under me. Um, and it's one of those things that I have to do. And I think by recording it and putting it on my personal channel, it kind of gives me these vlogs, if you will, of being able to understand certain things and, whatever, and just being able to understand why things happened the way it did. And also kind of this whole thing of, why I don't see momentum like everyone else does. But again, the whole psychology thing is going to be an interesting turn of events, if you will. So yeah, so these are going to be kind of split up. The third video is going to be kind of something that I want to do eventually. So yeah, so I will catch you in the next video.